lot of people are surprised to find out that I'm not a morning person. Like, I'm not a morning person. I hate waking up in the morning. My first instinct is to want to go straight back to sleep 100% of the time. But I wake up, I acknowledge that the day is there to be won or lost, and I make the decision to win, and then I need to prove it. I need to do something painful. So that for me is where I step into the cold shower. So for about 3 years now, I've had a cold shower every single morning. No hot whatsoever. It's cold from start to finish. That to me gives me so much energy. And people should have a cold shower for sustained energy levels for the day, if nothing else. Like, it's phenomenal to be able to do that.
Well, James, welcome back to the podcast.
Great to be on the show in person. I'm so happy you're over here in LA and you've had such a great trip too. This is awesome.
Yeah, and anyone who's been listening to my recent LA episodes will know I keep kind of saying, James has connected us. So maybe that's where we can kind of head this conversation. I know you've already been on the podcast. What episode? I think it was in the 90s. So, it was a little bit ago, but it was an online interview, which I don't usually do, but I really wanted to get you on. But first time meeting in person, which is cool, which is another thing I've been saying. I'm like, man, I feel like I know James, but I haven't met him in person yet.
Yeah, best buddies from around the world.
I know. So, if anyone wants to go listen to that episode first, feel free to. But for this conversation, we don't know where it's going to go. But one of your strengths, obviously, is like networking. And we discussed that networking and communication in the last episode. But it feels like that is just you're a connector. I was talking with the sleep doctor, Dr. Michael Bruce, and he's like, yeah, me and James link up and, we'll just discuss who can we connect each other with. And so maybe we'll just head into a conversation around that. But real quick, do you want to just give us a little bit about who you are and what you're trying to achieve with Win the Day and that brand?
Absolutely. So I've had the Win the Day podcast for about 3.5 years now. It's been something that has been the greatest source of being able to connect with really influential people. So it started off as a solo podcast, and then it reached a point where I started having some guests on. And quite frankly, I reached a point where I was sick of hearing my own voice. So it was really good timing to start getting some fresh insights on the show. And as a creator, you need to be inspired to be able to do that. I wasn't really inspired to create content by myself. It's so much easier sitting down like we are now. So the whole idea of the Win the Day movement comes from the idea that each day, if we do not make the decision to win, we have automatically made the decision to lose. So all of the work that I am doing now and all of these things that I am creating, all this infrastructure that I'm putting in place, is to help people see that the daily performance that they're doing now, what can we do to bridge that gap in terms of your daily performance and your potential? So I'm doing that through a book that I'm writing, the podcast, all the people that I've been able to connect with. And the more people that I'm letting in on that mission, the more opportunities it's opening.
Yes.
And if we keep that mission within ourselves, then we're, for whatever reason, maybe it's imposter syndrome, self-doubt, you're worried about what other people are going to say. If those things happen, then we're not going to be able to get access to the help from all of those other people.
Oh, that's my phone. Emergency flood.
Oh, wow.
That's weird.
This happens. What is it? Amber alert?
I've never had that. Emergency alert. National Weather Service. A flash flood warning is in effect of this area.
Hey, we might be camping in here for a little bit.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was like, what the hell's going on?
It's funny when you're in a supermarket and then all of a sudden there's like 500.
Oh, there would be. Yeah.
The same thing, and it's like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah. Well, there you go. So we're in LA, and to comment on a few things there, I like the comment, which is kind of like your leading quote, I guess. If you're not making an effort to win the day, you're losing, sort of thing. And it feels like for you, a big thing is like you have to achieve success, you've got to do small things over time, right? Constant little wins. Do you want to unpack like what that quote means to you?
Yeah, well, the whole idea is that you get exponential returns from incremental work. Everyone wants the exponential returns, but no one's willing to put in the incremental work. They have a goal of like, hey, I want to be fit, so I'm going to go and run a marathon today. But they don't take the time to go and set all those things up. So I've been building this whole thing for so long, and that's really twofold. What I've been doing is I've been focused on how much value I can add to other people, and I've been focused on how valuable I can make myself. Because the more valuable I am, the more value I have to offer other people. So I don't send an email without thinking about what can I do to add value to that person. And I want to know from just really awesome people in my network, people who are the green and growing people rather than the ripe and rotting people. I want to know what I can do to help and support those people. So I really keep that stuff front of mind. If there's an opportunity to be able to help people, like you're coming over here to LA, you've got a great platform, a massive audience. It really helps out the people in my network who want to get more visibility for their stories and to be able to connect with superstars like you. And you love being able to have some great industry experts
Yeah.
and people who can share those insights that you and your audience can benefit from. And I really get a lot of joy out of just connecting great people and just letting them go to sort of create their magic. So it really all comes back to value, but you need to make sure that you can develop some type of value first of all, like the value that you created in video content and the value that you've created from building an audience. And that's the stuff that I'm doing as well, that I'm trying to focus on.
Well, it's so important because like, how do we, if we deep dive into, to give a bit of clarity. So when I said, I reached out to a few people, I said, I'm coming to LA, you were my most valuable reach out by an absolute landslide. So you linked me up with like 4 or 5 of the interviews that we've done recently. And they're all incredible people. And some of these guys are worth, you know, I don't know what Dave's worth. Is over $1 billion? I don't know. I think he's got to be in hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, but it's just like, point is these guys are worth a lot of money and their time is very valuable. Some of them drove out to see me, and it's just like, that is all through your recommendation. You know, if I reach out to them, they probably wouldn't have done it. But all it took was one email from you. So how have you provided enough value? How have you put yourself in a situation where you can send an email and off your word, they're going to do it? And how can we as young people build that kind of reputation as well?
Yeah, it all comes down to trust. They trust me because I've now known these people for a long time. So David Meltzer is that example. He might not be a billionaire himself, but I tell you what, he is a billionaire times 100 with the network that he has.
Oh,
he's super tight with people like Gary Vaynerchuk and so many of these other like amazing people, and just a great guy who's focused on service. So he and I produced a movie together. We've collaborated on projects together. We've filmed together. We've done a whole bunch of different things. So any opportunity that I get through someone who comes in my network that I want to help Dave with, I will reach out and be like, hey, do you want someone from SEAL Team 6 from the Navy SEALs? Or do you want this other person that I was connected with recently? So I've been able to add that value over time. So they know that anything that I'm messaging them about is legit. They're going to be well taken care of. But most importantly, that their time is used well. These are people who are all very, very busy. They got families, they got businesses, they could be doing a million other things. But they know, they trust that process, because if I put them wrong once, they would never trust me again. They know that I've been able to create these things. So the ways that I've been able to create value for some of the people that you've been able to link up with here, all of them have been on my podcast before. The best thing about having a podcast
is network.
Yeah, exactly. You get a forced hour of being able to talk to someone about vulnerabilities and dreams and all of those different things. And the moment that that's done, I provide them with great video assets like you do. I post a lot of those video assets, so I'm staying front of mind in that. I'll send them a video message on their birthday, audio messages to check in and figure out what I can do to help. There's been a number of those people I've been able to organize speaking engagements for, connecting them with some great people. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, I connected him with Gabby Reese, who's married to Laird Hamilton. Together they've built a massive fitness empire. That was a great relationship. Michael and Gabby have been able to collaborate on a bunch of different things, and they both remember me for that. I don't want anything for that. Of course I don't. I get the satisfaction out of connecting great people. So that's the way that I've gone about doing this. And Byron, I feel like I am just scratching the surface on this. I really do. It's a game to me now. It's fun. I love it, and I want to see how far I can push it.
Well, and it's interesting because the people we talk about now in this example are pretty big hitters, right? And they're successful in whatever means. They're worth a lot of money. And I think for anyone listening, they might go, okay, James, obviously I'm going to provide good value to someone who's worth $500 million. But that's not where it starts. Like, how do we build our way up there? I mean, I'm guessing your answer is going to be something along the lines of it starts with everyone in your life. Like, you've got to get to the big name people, you've got to start off with the small name people. And when we say small name, it doesn't really matter. But it's just like, this is a philosophy I think you have to use to approach life when it comes to providing value and building your brand. Because Dale Beaumont, I remember in episode 31 or something, he said the most valuable thing you can have in business is your reputation. And for me, I take my reputation very seriously. When someone like you introduces me to these big name people, I know that if I make a mistake, or if like they come all the way out to me and I'm like asleep or something, that's going to reflect bad on you as well. And so I think it's also like, I would feel like when you get these people to come to me, you know that you can trust me. Otherwise, you want to recommend them.
100%. Yeah, they trust me. I trust you, and it works out really well with everyone. There needs to be more emphasis on story with all of this, because you persuade people through story. People don't buy facts, they buy your story. So your ability to be able to persuade people through story is really important. People need to focus on what they can do to tell their story. What makes their heart sing? Like, what is it that they love to do, and what are they inspired to do? Because when you carry yourself with the energy that you're inspired, then people are going to feel that, and they want to know what they can do to further that inspiration. But if you just go through without like any type of positive energy whatsoever, you don't carry that inspiration, and especially if you don't have any skills or value to be able to provide these people, which means essentially, without you even saying it, that you are only interested in taking from them because you have nothing to give, then the relationship ends there. But if you can keep focusing on value, keep being inspired, share that inspiration, and focus on what you can do to help, the sky is the limit to what that relationship can achieve.
So you're saying, because one of the quotes I love is be interested, not interesting. Meaning, rather than trying to show people how interesting you are, like, I can do this, there's this. First, be interested in them and curious. And then by nature, they'll ask, what can I do to help? Or, okay, what do you do?
Yeah. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, 100%. I was at a party recently at a friend of mine, Brandon T. Adams, picked me up. And this was to give you an example of like networking in the real world, of how that manifested for me. This was about 6 months ago. Brandon picked me up. We were both invited through the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation to a guy called Rami El Batrawi, who's a billionaire. His house is in the Hollywood Hills. He was having about 100 people over there. So Brandon picked me up. We drove to this house, and there was a person at this party, and it was like, hey, it's great to meet you, James. And spoke about herself for about 20 minutes. I wanted to ask her questions about herself, but I couldn't get a word in because she wouldn't shut up about herself. And Brandon was standing next to me, and we both had the exact same thought of like, why would we want to have anything to do with this person who is only interested in themselves? And then, so that was a really interesting thing for me of just like, I feel that way too much, of that I mentality, and I can't stand it. And that comes from insecurity. People who do that come from insecurity, maybe in a small percentage of ignorance, but above all, it's an insecurity in who they are and their place in the hierarchy of society. But there was a guy there, a guy called Dr. John Gray, who wrote books like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Oh, yeah.
They've sold more than 50 million copies.
50
million, yeah. He's like one of the world's leading relationship experts. And I walked over to him afterwards and just said, look, the stuff that you have shared with us today on relationships has literally changed my life. And I don't recall being moved so much from a conversation like that ever in my entire life. I have a podcast called Win the Day. It's doing pretty well. At any stage, I would love to get you in the studio to talk more about your journey so I can share these lessons with more and more people. And he said, sounds great. And we literally, 36 hours later, we were sitting in the studio in LA, me interviewing him. Clips from that episode are massive in terms of the content that I've been able to put out there. None of the other content that I have, The Sleep Doctor is a close second, not a close second, but he's actually a distant second, but it's those two. The content from John Gray about relationships, because it's quite topical, and there are people on either side of that who want to defend and people who want to attack that. I've had videos that have posted that have got 3 million views just because I made the decision to hop in the car and go to that house and say yes to an opportunity, and being open to what might happen, and being interested in other people that were there. And that is what it's led to, which is then credibility for the podcast to get a bunch of other guests on.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the podcast is easy because it gives you an easy, like, let's say you meet someone at an event and you want to like connect with them. What do I do? Well, invite them on the podcast. That's easy. I'll give you an example with someone we just interviewed before. He helps people with TikTok. He's really, really good at it. And when he first started, there was a musician he wanted to work with, and he basically just paid the guy to come write a rap verse on one of his songs just so he could spend more time with him. He didn't really, like, he wanted the rap, obviously, but he's like, I want to spend more time with him. So he paid him to spend more time with him, and now he's his biggest client. Yeah. So it's kind of like thinking outside the box. There's no one answer we can give you that's just like, what do I say to someone? Well, I don't know, it depends. There's a million scenarios it could be. I think, as you mentioned, Dale Carnegie, be interested. Yeah. And then, as you said, you didn't pitch, hey, can you come on my podcast? You said, hey, can you come on my podcast and share your lessons with more and more people? Which, of course, he's written books, which means he wants his information out there. Yeah. So you're kind of leveraging like what he wants.
And he actually said that he's been cancelled recently. And I had spoken to him and said, we need to uncancel you from the... He didn't do anything. It's just in terms of some of the material from these books that he'd written in the 90s. There are some people sort of countering what he spoke about then. along the line of what you said there about your friend with the TikTok stuff who's getting access to those people and paying for it to initiate the relationship, there's another very close friend of mine who's happily paid like $80,000, $100,000 to get really high profile musicians and business leaders to come and speak at his events, because that foot in the door means that relationship is solidified, and so many other great opportunities come from that. But you need to get that foot in the door, and that's how you focus on value. And if there's no other way to do it and you've got the budget for it, sometimes just paying for that to get the foot in the door. It's not my preference. I've never ever had to do that, and I may never have to do that, but I definitely would be open to it for the right situation.
And so when you're like with someone, because obviously what you're really good at is connecting people, which costs you nothing except some time. Does your brain just immediately go, whenever you're with someone, do you immediately think, who can I connect them with? Is that just an automatic reflex now?
It's funny that you mentioned that. I think it is.
Yeah.
It's like, when you go to a great restaurant and you're like, wow, this is a really cool restaurant. Who can I tell about?
Yeah. Who's going to love this?
Yeah.
Or like a movie or something.
Yeah, it is. And there are people out there who are super connectors. You don't need to know 100 people. If you've got 2 or 3 super connectors in your back pocket, like I'm one of those people that just loves to do that. And over a long time now, I've been in LA for 10 or 11 years. I've been to barbecues. I know people in all of these different industries now. I get a great sense of joy from being able to connect people. So I would fit into that super connector category. Michael Bruce is another guy. He's a very personal guy, massive network. He works with the world's best CEOs and entertainers like Steve Aoki to help them with their sleep. So he's got a great network. He's a super connector. Knowing him and knowing me means that there's a lot of people in our network who can benefit from that. But I can tell you how you don't build your network, and that's by staying inside your apartment or your house and keeping your mouth shut. You got to get out there. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to start initiating these conversations. I interviewed a guy recently, Steve Sims.
He came on yesterday.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Great. That was another one I connected with.
Yeah.
I'd lost track of some of these things. Steve's a great guy. And in the podcast I had with him, he mentioned the example of him and his buddies. They were at a bar when they're like 18 years old. And there was a guy there who was like the Elon Musk of their town, like the big shot of this small town where they grew up. And his buddies were so afraid of initiating a conversation. But Steve wasn't afraid of initiating the conversation. He was more afraid of staying in the same place for the next 10 years or 20 years. So he went and initiated the conversation. And since then, as I'm sure he shared in the interview, that's how he's now been able to connect with people like Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Sting, Oprah Winfrey, you name it, all of those people through that mentality and that attitude to fear.
Yeah. I mean, a great example from this morning's episode with William, who's a Navy SEAL. I don't know if he told you, but he had this great moment where he was in the Navy and he wanted to be a SEAL, but one guy said, look, you can't be a SEAL. You're not going to be able to do that. Like, you can't do that. And then one of the most senior people came onto a boat. He was like the most senior. So the only 2 people hired was like the president and the defense secretary. And this guy did a presentation to everyone and said, any questions? And he put his hand up and he went, I want to be a Navy SEAL. They're saying I can't do it. Like, will you give me a shot? And the guy turns and he says, is this a good guy? And he says, yeah, he just won, he was a Sailor of the Week or something. And then he got to be a SEAL. And I'm just like, what a moment. Had you not put your hand up, would you ever made it? And he's like, probably not, because they wouldn't let me.
I always think of those sliding door moments.
Big sliding door moment.
What happens if you don't turn up to a party, or you don't start this conversation, or you just don't know where these things can come from? So I think about all the time. I really think about that all the time, like those little things. It's
the butterfly effect, or like anyone who's in Marvel, the multiverse sort of thing, where it's like one decision could go to a completely different way.
Yeah.
And I think I always reference it. People are probably sick of it. Like the top regret of the dying. One of them is they very rarely regret the risks that they took, but they always regret the risks that they never took.
Yeah.
And so you just don't want to have that regret, like, oh, I wish I'd done that.
100%. Like, I went to an event recently. There's a buddy of mine, again, through the podcast. It's funny that all of my friends and people that I'm just spending the most time with at the moment are all really influential people I've been able to meet from the podcast because I had a platform. And he just recently launched a wine. So he said, come to my wine launch. It was about 20 minutes from here at this amazing recording studio. I rocked up there and just by myself. Like, that would terrify most people. I got 2 young kids at home. One of them was sick at the time. I got a wife who travels constantly for work. There was every reason I should have stayed home that night. But I know I need to go out and do these things to see what can happen. So I attended this event and I was introduced to a guy called Tyler Bates. Now, Tyler Bates is the composer. He's a musician for a whole bunch of bands, but he's also the composer of films that have generated more than more than $6 billion US at the box office.
Wow.
And he came on my podcast as a result of me making the decision to go to this event. And I have no idea what these relationships can lead to. But again, you have to get out of your home to be able to access these things. They don't come to you when you're sitting on your ass doing nothing. You've got to get out there and get your hands dirty.
So where do we start? Like, let's say we've got someone who's in their 20s and they've finished school, maybe they've gone to university, now they're working a job, but they're hearing this going, I want to do more, I want to build my network, I want to build this sort of thing. Like, obviously we can't give them an exact thing because we don't know what their life is like. And it could be as simple as like, just be open to opportunities. You have to Google, find events to go to, but like, what is a starting point, do you think, for people?
I just wrote an article this week actually on how I was able to get 2 million views a month on social media, and my sort of plan, this 9-step plan to get to 1 billion social media views in the next 3 years, because I have total confidence that we're going to be able to get there through doing that. I see most people who want to get more visibility and authority and credibility, they get their iPhone or their mobile phone and they start recording these selfie videos. That's tough work. I don't know about you, but the last thing that I want to do most of the day is do a selfie video, figuring out what am I going to say, how do I look, what am I going to wear. All of these different insecurities and doubts go through your head. But I would happily find the most successful people in my network and sit down with them for an hour like we're doing now, where I can ask them any question that I want about the world or what they should recommend that I should do to be able to upgrade my life and that people in my audience can do, and share that content. People love to support others who are on the right path and are inspired. If you have a podcast, which is your platform, it is much easier in terms of getting a yes than saying, hey, can we go and catch up for a coffee for an hour? No one has time to do that when you reach a certain level.
Well, because there's no intrinsic value for them.
Yeah.
Whereas coming on a podcast, there's value, they get access to your audience. So again, it's pitching the value first.
It is, and there are people out there where it's not just access to the audience. They want to give someone a leg up who needs it at the early stages of their career. But if I reached out to you, or if someone's listening who's 18 years old and said, Byron, I'd love us, could we go out for a coffee so I can pick your brain? That's tough. That's tough work. But if they say, look, I've got a podcast, this is my dream, I've been following your show for years, I would love to have the success that you have. If you've got 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I will do anything. Name the place, name the time. I would love to sit down with you and do all I can to support you and share your mission with the world. It's a very, very different story than, can I pick your brain for an hour? Take.
The pick my brain thing is a very common method, I think, because I still think it's definitely, because not everyone has podcasts, right? And I always encourage people to try get coffee with whoever they can. But it's like, when we do it, we have different methods of doing it. It's like, again, you could even say like, hey, I want to be I don't know, what's an example? Like, I want to be a nurse and I know you've been nursing for 20 years. Do you mind if I come and ask you some questions because I'm studying and I think I can learn a lot from you? See the difference between that and just pick your brain?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but you want to rub their ego a little bit.
For sure.
And the big thing you said, you always make sure you go to them. Yeah. If someone asks me they want to get coffee, I'll say yes if it's a coffee next door to me, because then it's a low barrier for me. It's like, oh, all I have to do is go out. Or just, when I was younger, like 18 or 19, I'd travel 40, 50 minutes for a quick coffee because I knew it could be worth it. And I'm not doing that much else. Yeah. So just make it as frictionless as possible for someone that you're trying to like learn from or build your network with.
For sure. And you got to get out of your own head. So there are two people. Michael Bruce is one of them and Dr. Mark Goulston is the other. I've been working on this project for months now. I'd been stuck in my own head with it for a long time, and I had an opportunity to have a coffee with Michael Bruce and have a Zoom with Dr. Mark Goulston. And what those guys shared with me took my project forward on a multiple of 100 much quicker and much further than I could have done if I stayed trapped in my head. To go and find the most successful people and the smartest people in your network and who have the success that you already have, just sit down with them and just brainstorm, what can I do to help you, or tell me more about your mission and what you're working on at the moment, because those people are focused on impact and they want to help. So what can you do to further their impact?
Yeah.
And when they turn around, like if you say it enough times and do it the right way in terms of what can I do to help you? What can I do to help you? What can I do to help you? They turn around and say, what can I do to help you?
Yeah.
And that's your opportunity.
Yeah. And then that's the opportunity where you've got to have something ready.
Yeah.
You've got to have,
I'm good is not a good answer.
Yeah. What can I do to help you? I remember when, Dale Beaumont, who, again, I'm referencing him twice now, he said the same thing. He's just like, oh, what can I do to help you after we did an episode, and he's like, can I do anything to help you, Byron? And I said, yeah, look, my goal right now is I want to be in front of as many young people as possible. And he goes, oh, that's great. Actually, my old business partner runs a company where they run personal development programs for teenagers. And I said, oh, no way. Let me give you his email. Bang. Now I've been working with Empower You for 2 years. All of that because I had that little call to action for my life in a way ready. And so you want to have that ready. As you say, no, I'm good. It's not really good enough.
For sure. You had something specific and clear. People are drawn to clarity and away from confusion. You were very clear on what it is that you wanted to do. You were very clear on who you are and your mission and your values, and you found someone who was in a position to help, who you had provided, if nothing else, respect and value for. And that's how those doors had opened for you.
Yeah.
Which of course have led to a lot of other great things.
Well, even with like you, like I remember I was doing free video work for you and Ronzi for quite a while because it was during COVID, and I was like, yeah, I can help you out with some projects like that. And I didn't know it was going to lead to anything. I was just like, yeah, I'll just help out. And so it's, again, you don't have to have a podcast. There's lots you can do. You could volunteer for them. Say like, oh, do you need any help with this? And you just like, yeah, go help out with them. Just really try to think, what value can I provide them?
Yeah, I want to make something really clear. Everyone's focused on like the immediate ROI. Like what's the immediate return that I can get from this conversation or from my time? What I'm focused on is the long-term transformation. What's the value that we can mutually exchange as we each get better and better over 5 years, over 10 years, over 20 years? So building those relationships now is what leads to $100 million opportunities down the track. I firmly believe that. But you need to be focused on the long term rather than what can I get in the short term.
I think it's being curious, right? And there's another quote that I think I mentioned last time. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so just show that you care and be interested in. And I think honestly the first step, because I think most people aren't even making the first step, which is just reaching out and putting yourself out there. That's the most crippling thing because of rejection potential.
And you know that you need, first of all, to show that you care about yourself. If you don't care about yourself, I mean, there have been so many times in my life where I have cared more about someone else's goals and dreams coming true than they had. And that just doesn't end up well because they don't put in the work, they don't put in the effort to get there. I end up frustrated. I've been on the point of burnout many times in my entire life because I've thought that I could pull these people up, but all that happens is they end up pulling me down, not directly, but through their energy, through not following through on what they needed to do. So if you don't care about yourself first, then you can't expect these other people to.
100%. But I kind of wanted to shift gears a little bit. Your podcast is called Win the Day, as we mentioned at the beginning, and that's a brand you're trying to build. Win the Day, you mentioned kind of what that means to you, but let's just go through a whole bunch of things. What is winning the day? Because I like Win the Day because it's, how do you achieve a big goal? It's just small habits compounded over time. Things you do daily, that's how you win the day. How do you win life? By winning the days, right? So what are some of the things you teach or preach about or like to, especially when it comes to young people, for winning the day?
Yeah, exactly. It's like we have these big goals that we want to achieve. Maybe it's writing a book. Maybe it's getting a six-figure salary for a job. All of these different things can sound quite insurmountable. But if you chunk them down, if you break them down into smaller incremental steps that will get there, that'll show you what you need to do today to get there. And when you can release yourself from worrying about what's going to happen in the future, like it's important to map out all of your goals. And I can share a process for doing that. But all you need to focus on is the stuff today. It's so much easier to focus on one day at a time, putting one foot in front of the other than focusing on the bigger picture, trying to build Rome. That whole Rome wasn't built in a day thing. So when I think about winning the day, this is what I do. And a lot of people are surprised to find out that I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person at all. I hate waking up in the morning. My first instinct is to want to go straight back to sleep 100% of the time. But I wake up and I acknowledge that the day is there to be won or lost. And I make the decision to win, and then I need to prove it. I need to do something painful. So that for me is where I step into the cold shower. So for about 3 years now, I've had a cold shower every single morning. No hot whatsoever. It's cold from start to finish. That to me gives me so much energy. And people should have a cold shower for sustained energy levels for the day, if nothing else. It's phenomenal to be able to do that.
Well, we've set up an ice bath in our house.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother level.
Yeah, it is.
Because I was doing cold showers. The ice bath is we do 3 minutes in it, and it's we've got it real low. We can get it down. We had ice, proper ice in it. It's just a freezer we bought. No, we got it for free. It took us a whole day to get, but it's a chicken freezer from a store. Nice. We turn it into an ice bath.
It's a great mental battle, isn't it? If you can do that first thing in the morning, it builds you such great momentum because you've done something really hard. because our brain is just trying to keep us alive. Our brain is not necessarily trying to help us thrive. So if you can override what your brain is telling you by stepping into discomfort voluntarily, it's a really interesting thing as like a pattern interrupt for what your brain should be doing, and it actually makes you more resilient. Doing hard things consistently makes you more resilient and makes you better equipped to face hard things in life. The next thing from there that I do is I sit down with a journal. So I use a journaling app called the Day One. It's available as a free download.
I use that as well.
Yeah, it's great.
I love Day One. I've been using it for like 18 months now.
Nice.
And because I prefer writing, don't get me wrong, handwritten, but I just don't have it. I'm messy. Day One, just I can type it out. I can let everything out. It stamps it with the time and the date and everything.
Yeah. And it's nice to be able to have a record. So once you've done it for longer than a year, it says, here is what you were doing 1 year ago. It's really interesting to see how your thoughts shift and your goals shift and your to-do list shifts over time. So
yeah, and like for me, journaling, like a lot of people preach journaling, like it's really good. For me, it hasn't like changed my life or anything. I just enjoy it. I think it's a good habit. If for the only reason I can go back and read stuff when I'm 40 and see what I was thinking when I was 21, 22, I think that's a cool thing. But also like, yeah, Day One makes it really easy. It's a great app. I think it's like $80 a year or something. Yeah,
you can. There is the free version. You can pay for it, where it automatically will back it up to all in the cloud, and you can upload photos and all those things, so you have those memories come up.
Yeah.
I created something called the Win the Day template, where the first thing is daily recap. So what was unique about the last 24 hours? What did I do in the last 24 hours? And then it's what 3 things can I do to win today? That's the most important part of the journal. It's like, what are those 3 things that I am going to do today, no matter what, that is going to move my life forward? And they're not all related to the one thing. They're not all related to health. They're not all related to business. They're not all related to family. But there's always a combination of those different things. And what that does is it plants that in your brain. It nags away at you until you get those things done. And it's a really good feeling. The next thing from there is I write down an intention. How do I want to carry myself for the day? And then after that, I write down a lesson. Now, I don't have a lesson every day. I have a lesson about 50% of the time. Like, if I could improve one thing about my life from a lesson that I've learned from the last 24 hours, what would that be? And that's what I write down. So I do that journaling thing in the sunshine. Even if the sun's not there, maybe it's too early in the morning, just get outside with a bit of natural light, because that's going to naturally wake you up. And the reason I've been able to stay consistent with the journaling, I've done 600 days in a row now.
Wow.
It's because I haven't missed a single day. It's because I anchor it with my morning coffee. As an Australian, I'm never missing my morning coffee.
Yeah. So
I have my morning coffee at the same time as I do the journal. And that is the morning routine that sets me up to win the day every single day. And I challenge people who are listening to this and watching this, if you can do that routine every single day, or even just Monday to Friday, your life will explode as a result.
And it's really not that much.
Basic. Yeah.
It was like a shower, journaling, going outside, having a coffee. Like, it's
sounds pretty good, right?
Yeah.
It's not the cold shower necessarily.
Yeah, mine is a cold shower. That's easy as. But it's easy, but still people won't stick to it.
Yeah.
For me, like, I journal like kind of just whenever I want to. To be fair though, if you go through all of my entries, I reckon 95% are between 5 and 7 a.m. when I'm doing my routine. I've only journaled once because I haven't done my routine in LA.
Yeah.
So I've only done 1 or 2. But when I'm doing every single day, I do it 2-3 times a week. And I think that's really great. So again, not super tricky, but it's definitely worth doing. The cold showers are hard, especially during... and if you want to start with a cold shower, just have a shower and then flip it to cold for the last 30 seconds and then build your way up.
Yeah. Or even set a timer. That was the thing for me. The first time I did it, Byron, I was horrible in this cold shower. It was really embarrassing. I lasted like 20 seconds. My wife was laughing at me. She thought it was hilarious. And then I set a timer, like a stopwatch. And I said, 2 minutes, no matter what, I'm going to stay in this thing. And after 60 seconds, and you focus on box breathing, like 4 seconds inhale, hold for 4 seconds, 4 seconds exhale. If you do that, you'll have absolutely no problems doing that. And I think something else to really think about in terms of being able to win your day, if you can even just once a day, just send an audio message to someone in your network, just to reach out, just to check in on them, just to see how they're doing. I was just thinking of you, wanted to send you a message and just say, hey, as always, if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know, but just know that I'm always here for you, and I was thinking of you. If you can do that enough times, then what you will attract as a result of that, and you're not doing it to get things back, you're doing it just to give, but the byproduct of you sending all that out and giving all that positive energy is that you're going to get a lot of stuff back.
Yeah, I encourage that with my guys. And even, to be honest, listening to this, I should probably do that more often. because it doesn't take much. And I like what you pointed out there. I think James Clear talks about it, the habit stacking.
Yep.
Habit stacking. So why have you journaled every single day? Because you anchor it, as you said, with your coffee. So you want to have a coffee. So you have a coffee, and then just now the second habit is every time I drink my coffee, I do a journal. And now it's probably 600 days in, you probably don't even think about it. It's just bang, that's just what I do.
It was interesting. I interviewed not William Branham, who's a great guy, a different Navy SEAL recently, and I asked him, do you consciously make the decision to win every single day, or has it become like an automatic process for you? And he thinks about it automatically. It just doesn't. It's not like a conscious decision anymore. It just happens because they're trained to do that. And you can train yourself to do that, but you just got to put in the reps enough times. And something like the cold shower, the difference between a cold shower and a hot shower is because the hot shower makes me lazy. So what I'm trying to do is figure out what are all these actions and thoughts and things that are going to make me think and feel lazy, and I want to replace them with something that's going to make me act and think and feel productive and positive and great.
Yeah.
They're the things that I'm aiming for. I'm trying to upgrade my day by replacing all those shitty things that I've been doing and putting in all the great stuff.
And look, I recommend the cold stuff. Like, I know it sucks. No one who's talking about cold showers is excited to do them and they're like, guys, you want to do it? Like, we're only saying it because it's positive benefits. Like,
I've never once ever I've never looked forward to stepping into a cold shower. I hate it every time, but I love the feeling afterwards.
It's same with the ice bath, which again, that's been a whole nother challenge. Like, we've been doing it every morning during summer because we've had it, but I'm like, man, this is gonna be tough during winter. I don't know if I would want to do it in winter.
How long are you spending in the ice bath each time?
3 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, once you've done a minute, you can kind of go, like, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got it real cold sometimes. I think the coldest we had was 3 degrees. So and there was literally ice floating all over it. So we've a
penguin walking past.
Literally, yeah. But I mean, as Dale, my roommate, said, his baseline happiness has never been higher. Now, there's other stuff going on in our life, but like, there's also science that shows how good it is. So I know it's something people don't want to hear. They're like, I don't want to do a cold shower. Yeah, neither do we.
And no one said your life should be perfect. There's this misconception that your life is going to be amazing and you're going to wake up one day and you'll be at this destination where everything's great. You will never be there. The goal is to thrive and be as happy as you possibly can. If you're aiming perfection, you're going to be disappointed and pissed off constantly. Instead, just figure out all of these little 1%ers and things that you can do that's going to put you in the best energy. Surround yourself with the right people. Write down what it is that you want to achieve. Audiobooks are a massive one for me. I love just listening. On the way here, I'm listening to audiobooks. I'm calling people I want to check in with. So just when you can remain front of mind for a lot of people, that's when you'll get a lot of opportunities your way. But if you haven't caught up with people recently, if you haven't even interacted with them on social media, people are going to naturally forget you over time. So your opportunity to stay front of mind, so they have that recency bias. They want to do things for people that they've seen recently who are on the up and up. That's a really good thing to do in terms of growth for your life.
Well, front of mind is so important because as soon as they think of someone, they go, oh yeah, Byron or James or whatever. Yeah. But like touching on what you said, like you never, it's to talk about a lot, like the when I get this, when I get this. The thing I like about the win the day thing is it's just, you're just focusing on the day. Because one of my favorite quotes is how you live your days is how you live your life. And so how you live your days is how you live your life. Your life is just one day at a time. And so you've got to, if you're not, I think a lot of people are willing to sacrifice shit days because they go, oh, but when I get my job, then I'll be happy. Yeah. It's like, nah. You got to focus now. I think there's a thing I saw. It's like people always say, when I get this, I'll be happy. You've got to switch it. When I'm happy, I'll get this. Yeah. When I get that raise, I'll be happy. No, when you're happy and you focus on looking after yourself first, now you're going to attract that raise into your life or whatever it is. I think it's a good mentality to kind of switch.
Yeah. Most people aren't living their days. They have fear over something that's going to happen in the future, or they have anxiety over something that's happened in the past. You just got to live in the present. Like, what are you going to do today? It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. I interviewed someone who's a 6-time CrossFit Games athlete, Alethea Boone, amazing woman, lives in Sydney, and she had once shared with me that you don't want to set a world record every day. You just got to give the best you've got that day. And there's, some days you're the pigeon, some days you're the statue, some days you're just going to have things that just happen to you. But that's okay. How are you gonna? Are you gonna go through with a chip on your shoulder and be crabby and pissed off the next day? They're going to say, you know what, today is a clean slate. It's a fresh start. I'm going to prove how badly I want it through my actions, and that starts now. Let's get after it. And I mean, it took me a long time to figure this out. I wish I would start doing this when I was 12 and 13 and 14. It was in, mid-20. It was in my sort of early to mid-20s when I realized that I was going to start getting after it for life, but I was still very lost. It's really only been in the last 5 years. I'm about to turn 40. It's really sort of mid-30s is the point when I was like, wow, I really know what it is that I'm put here on this earth to do. And even like you and I were talking before offline, and it's really only in the last 6 months that I figured out what is it that I want to do. Like, what is this life that I want to structure, and what are those things that I need to figure out? And the biggest one was that I'm sick of chopping and changing from different things. I want to do one thing for the rest of my life. And that was all in on the win the day mentality. I'm appreciating more and more this idea of concentrated effort rather than being spread too thin across a whole bunch of different things.
It's so interesting you say that, because it's just so relevant to me right now, because I just signed with a new manager. He's here today, and he's the reason I'm in the US, and he's incredible. And when our first meeting we had with him, I was like, okay, I'll sit down with my best mate, Pace, and we're like, look, we've got this brand, Byron and Pace. We do some presenting. We have a comedy podcast. We do live shows. He's a musician. Pace is a musician as well on top of that. Also, I have Driven Young program. Also, I want to be doing more speaking. And I do Empower You program, which is another company. And he's like, boys, you got to focus. Like, what's your focus on? And for me, like, maybe not because of that chat, but also by byproduct, I have gone all in on the Driven Young program, which is my biggest focus right now. Like, if you look at the podcast, I haven't done an episode for like 10 weeks, 15 weeks at the time of recording this. And that's something I'm disappointed in myself, because I promised I wouldn't do that. But at the same time, I just need to focus on my business. It's not like I'm not doing it because I'm lazy. I'm putting my time where I need to bring in revenue so I can build this brand to be way bigger. Because right now I need cash to grow.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
If you wanted me to introduce you at a party to someone really interesting, how would you, if we were in a room with like some really awesome people? I was actually at a dinner last night with some really, really interesting people, and it's tough to have like a bit of an elevator pitch, but if you were at that dinner and someone said, hey, this is your friend Byron, how would you want me to introduce you?
It would definitely be for Driven Young and that brand. I probably wouldn't even get you to talk about Byron and Pace.
And what would that be specifically?
It would be something along the lines of, this is Byron. He runs a program for young people aged 18 to 20, 18 to 30. He helps build communities for young people. He does a lot of personal development work, helps them find their careers and find lifelong friendships. My one line is actually, it's a work in progress. It's on the Instagram accounts of the Driven Young program. And it's, I help people find their community, career, and thrive in their 20s in just 2 months without years of trial and error and anxiety of putting yourself out there.
What raised the urgency for you in terms of, and significance for you in terms of like, wow, this is a problem that needs some attention right now?
For Driven Young, or for like the focus?
For that, yeah, for that context with Driven Young.
It was
helping
during
young people.
It was during COVID, when we're in the Sydney lockdown, and no one was worried for young people about dying, but everyone was worried about the lack of community. And I just noticed how lonely so many people were and how lost they were. And it was also just constantly hearing young people, like, I can't tell you how many people, and I'm not making this up, it's fully true, have told me, Byron, I did a 4-year degree, I don't have a single friend. Or I did a 5-year degree, I have not made a single friend in university. And I'm like, how is that possible? One of the big reasons you go to uni is to discover yourself, make friends, and get a degree at the same time. But what I'm seeing now is it's just a degree.
If we were at that party last night and you introduced yourself like that, the second way, there wouldn't be a word said in the room. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone would feel that and would be all in on helping you with that mission. But the first one, it's like a different things in terms of capturing that like emotional thing. And most people, when they have that business thing or their own projects that they're working on professionally, they focus on that. It's almost like the delivery of facts rather than the persuasive storytelling, like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
it's
wow.
like they buy into the emotion of what you said there. I mean, young people taking their lives. It's the reason I wrote The Beginner's Guide to Wealth in Australia, 12 years ago or whatever that was. It's because I was sick of seeing too many people at the age of 18 who have a relationship that breaks up and that's it. They think that that's the end of their life without realizing that moment there and the pain you're feeling at the moment might actually be the best thing that you ever went through in your entire life if you're open to it. So doing that and capturing the emotion there is so much more powerful, and remembering that.
No, you're right. I think it's almost like, what do? You could just give I do this. Yeah. It's like, what do I do? Oh, well, like if you said it, maybe you go, oh, well, Byron, when he was 22, he noticed this, and because of that, he started this, kind of the storytelling thing. Yeah,
exactly. So if people introduce me and it's like, oh, well, James helps people win the day, but it's like, oh, what is that?
It's so vague. It's like,
what does that really mean?
Yeah,
for sure. And that's why I think it's important in terms of like, well, what are the solutions that anyone provides to be able to go on that journey to get the results, that transformation. But at the heart of it is like, why do you want to solve that problem, and what is that? I think it's interesting to think about that.
I think I need to get more clarity on that. Like, I know why. It's because young people are lonelier than ever. I mean, I could bring in some I know stats. 54% of young Australians 18 to 25 are extremely lonely. 48%, 85% wish they learnt more relevant life skills. I can give you the stats and the stuff, the reasons. It's all in my pitch and why I do what I do. But honestly, the key reason probably is because the first 3 to 4 years after high school, I had no friends and I was very lonely. And now that I have those people in my life, and how much I've leveled up by having just 2 or 3, 4 incredible people in my life, I'm like, how can I help other people have that? By surrounding them with friends. And what I realized is you can't just have that by having drinks with people. And that's why the program has all these different elements that like specifically facilitates. The reason I had a boat party at the beginning of the program is so people can't leave. It sounds crazy.
No, it's spot on. I was laughing because it's great. It's actually quite smart.
Yeah, I give them an open bar on a boat party, which first of all is awesome, so they get excited. Everyone rocks up. You're there. There's 80 to 100 other people. Very intimidating. So what I do, I give them an open bar and a place where they can't leave. Otherwise people will just kind of go outside or catch an Uber home early if they're not feeling it. It's like, trust me, you stick around, you'll end up having a good night because of what we're doing. That's an unintentional reason I did it.
For sure.
When I first did the boat party, people pointed it out. I was like, oh, that's a smart benefit.
And it means that people can't arrive late too, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone arrives at the same time. Whereas a house party, people are awkward when they get there. The cool people rock up 2 hours later or whatever. It's
it can be cliquey and all that.
Exactly.
So like the win the day thing for me is because I vividly recall who I was in my early 20s. And I was going to use the word hate. It's not that I hated that person.
Resent, maybe?
Yeah, there's something there. It's almost like we're polar opposites. That was like the lowest, like the worst representation of James Whittaker. Whereas now I feel like I'm getting closer to the best representation of James Whittaker. And I hate the idea that there are people out there who believe it when someone tells them that they can't do this or they can't do that. You have massive amounts of potential. I grew up in Brisbane, that people always think about as the country town in Australia, and I'm here in LA doing really cool things, and again feel like I'm just scratching the surface, but I do what I do because my life was literally on the line at one stage, and it's heartbreaking to look back at that person and the family that we actually have had a couple of sort of the reason I called my mum is because we had like a very close family friend whose funeral was yesterday, and it's there's a lot of people going through very difficult things because they don't have that belief in themselves. And I think with the right mentorship and the right hand up for people at a vulnerable moment when they need it, they too can achieve extraordinary things. And that's why I want to help as many people as possible to win the day.
Yeah. As you said that a few times before, have you? No, but I mean, it's like, this morning, William, right? His thing is 22.
Yeah.
22
veterans taking their own lives every day in America.
That's what it stands for.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to take that to 0. Yeah. I love the clarity of that. I love how beautiful that is, how simple that is. And like, as soon as he said that, I was like, I'm on board. Yeah. Like that's amazing. And same as that. And how do people find this? You mentioned you're 39 now, are you? And only in the past 6 months do you feel like you've really connected with it. How do you find this? Like, it's such a bullshit question to say, how do you find your passion, right? Because it's so vague. But like, if anyone's in their 20s and they're going, I want to have that level of passion that you have, James, like what would you recommend?
I think it's a great question, actually. It all comes from momentum. You don't end up in the position that I am in terms of having a clear mission and path of and an idea of what I want to do in life by sitting still. I have tried so many different things. I had a corporate job for like 10 years. Before that, I had a whole bunch of casual part-time jobs in pretty much every industry that you can think of. I've launched products and companies in pretty much every industry that you can think of. And I've tried to find out of all of these pursuits that I've been involved in, what are the skills that I brought to the table? What are the things that I've been able to capture from that? And what is the foundation that I've been able to build and the relationships? And as a result of that momentum and being open to life and saying yes, that is what has led opportunities to me where it just felt like, wow, the clouds have parted and this is what I'm put on this earth to do.
Keyword I reckon there is being open.
Yeah.
I think you're never going to find your passion if you think you have to follow the path. Like the passion doesn't exist on the path. Everyone I've interviewed, I always ask the same question. I didn't for you, but I did the last podcast. So I figured, let's not repeat it. And that's, what did you do after high school? It's a simple question. But the reason I ask it is because if you ask that question, if you listen to 100 episodes of every single time they say, I had no idea what I want to do after high school. And then they say, I did this and I ended up doing this. It gives you permission to know, oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, I have to be this certain pathway, just be open to life. Do this, be open to new things, and it'll happen. Even Dr. Michael Bruce, who we've mentioned a few times, he was like, I want to be a psychologist, but in order to do that, they said I had to do a 6-month course on sleep. And so I did that just so I could become a psychologist. And then I ended up falling in love with it within 3 days.
Sliding door moment. Yeah, it's huge. And it's saying to someone like, what's your passion? It's a difficult question to answer. If someone held a gun to your head and said, what's your passion? You'd be like, you'd be...
Bang.
Yeah, exactly. Bang. You're gone. You're dead. Couldn't answer the question. But when you can think about... I've interviewed a lot of like really high-level entrepreneurs, and they focus on finding a piece of joy in every single day. Like, what is something that gives them joy? So and there's also books that talk about like what makes your heart sing. The idea of thinking about what do you instinctively enjoy researching and looking up and participating in and talking about when you wake up in the morning or at the end of the day, that's probably going to give you a bit of an idea, but you need some commercial sense there as well. You can't just be like, look, I love watching TV. I'm going to figure out a way to get paid watching TV. So I'd be thinking about, well, what are the feelings that you get from watching TV? Is it connection? Is it adventure? Is it like an experience? Then is it transporting people out of their reality so they can feel like they're part of something else? Cool. What unique skills can you develop or that you already have that you can use to go and create a similar feeling for different people? It might be a completely parallel industry. It might be something completely different, but by you know that you have a passion for the feelings that are created through that, and that's the type of thing that you can follow. You don't need to be so specific on what it is. You got to acquire skills. You got to acquire knowledge. Podcasts like this one, reading a lot of books. These are all things that you have to be a lifelong learner. However you want to learn. You know, if you only learn from watching TV, it's not ideal. But then make sure you watch the right stuff. If you learn best through reading, read the best stuff that you can find. That builds that momentum and an open mind and helps connect these different paths. And you can even get a bit more specific on that. Write down a list of 20 to 25 different things that you love, and then look at the commonalities. What are the patterns that you can find and link up between those different things? And just work on that for 5 or 10 minutes a day. Just work on exploring those different things. What's the problem? What can you add from the other side? What are some things that can you contribute? Teach that to someone else, because you can really reach a level of mastery by teaching other people about it. And then you can start to go from there.
I think it's really just finding like the thread, the initial thread, and just kind of like pulling along that thread, which is probably infinite. You know, again, gun to your head, what's my passion? Helping young people, it's still so vague, right? You know, I feel like I've got a more clarity than most, which is something I'm very grateful for. And I kind of I stumbled upon it, but also I was intentional as well. Like it's a lifelong journey, and I think it's something you have to start as sooner rather than later. Otherwise, you know, I know so many people who have never figured it out. Are people in my life, you know, I think, very close people in my life are like not sure what they're doing. Yeah. And these are exactly what you just said about the interest, the mapping out your interests and all these different things, I think is what we need to be doing when looking at careers as well. Yeah.
And going the extra mile in wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Like you might have a job that some other people might laugh at, and I really mean that. But what can you do to get noticed by these different people? And what can you do to let them know that, hey, look, I want to get out of here. I want to do big things. What can you do to help support me to do that? Or what responsibility can you give me to prove that I am dedicated and committed and the best person you've ever seen?
Well, Dave Meltzer's answer to what advice would he give to a young person was ask for help.
Yeah.
Which is what you just said.
Huge. I've asked Dave for really big things that I probably had no right to ask him for, and he delivered. He's never said no to me. And guess what? I would never want to say no to him for anything. He's someone who could call me anything, the most unreasonable request that you could think of, and I would say the answer would be yes. I would do everything I possibly could to make that happen.
It was the same. We went to Vegas the other night, me and my two mates, and we're just like, we're drunk, having a very emotional chat while smoking a cigar. It was honestly, we stayed up to like 5 a.m. It really ruined me. It was good though. It was
Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby. It was really good though. We had these chats that were like exactly that. We were like, my Pace, who's a musician, he's like, man, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. No matter whenever I put a show on, you two are always in the audience every single time. And I was like, yeah, and whenever I'm putting something, they're there. Like, I've got an event on, I know they're going to be there. It doesn't matter, like, other people are asked, like, I've got this on. It doesn't matter what I say, they're going to be there. Like, and they're busier than most people. Yet, because whatever they have on, they'll cancel it, or they'll move on, or they'll say, I'll be there. So they're just always there. And I feel like if you can find those people, then your life just gets better.
Yeah.
And there's no money involved. We're just all helping each other out. And I love the way that you can kind of, there's no, he did this for me, I need to do this. There's no, I don't know who's given more favors. I don't care. Yeah. That's not how it works. It's just being good people and having good friends.
Yeah, I don't love that idea of keeping score. I get very uncomfortable
hate that.
With that.
I hate that. Like people who go, you paid $10 last time, I owe you 10. It's like, look, unless one of us is intentionally trying to get money out of the other one, it doesn't bother me.
For sure. And that there are people out there who just aren't your tribe. Like every day I think of the quote that to the right people you can do no wrong, and to the wrong people you can do no right. Like eventually you will find your tribe, and not everyone is meant to be in your life forever. Like there are just natural conclusions to friendships, relationships.
And that's okay.
Exactly.
Which is a hard pill to swallow when you're 21.
For sure, yeah.
And you're like, my high school friends who I still want to be with, my work friends, or whatever situation it is. It's like, yeah, sometimes that's how it's meant to be.
Yeah.
But listen, James, it's been a great conversation as usual. I asked you this last time, but I mean, maybe you have a different answer. You've already answered we'll just say, I answer every podcast. What advice would you give to an 18-year-old? Again.
Yeah. I think this might be different to last time. I have to go back on that idea of the win the day thing, that each day, if you do not make the decision to win, you've automatically made the decision to lose. What are you going to do to win today? If you can just have that mentality, my God, you will flourish massively.
Yeah.
But the moment you don't think about that, that's when you revert to procrastination, distraction, and all those other negative influences. So each day, make the decision to win.
And as you said, winning doesn't have to be huge. It's just like, what is your version of winning that day or something? I think it's just taking it from subconscious to conscious.
Yeah. And sometimes winning the day means having a rest day and giving yourself some space to go walk on the beach, grab a latte, and to sit there and watch the birds fly and the waves crash. I mean, that can be a really good thing to do sometimes.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, James, thanks so much for coming on the show. You mentioned you're working on a book, you're doubling down on the brand. Where should people go if they want to like just connect and see what you're doing? Yeah, Instagram, James Whitt on there, and on TikTok as well. I'm trying to follow your lead and make some big things happen on TikTok. So JP Whitt is my handle on TikTok, but if you just type in James Whittaker or Win the Day, you should be able to find me everywhere. And I'll put everything below, but thanks so much for coming on the show. You're a legend. Thanks, Byron.